News Nation investigative journalist Ross Coulthart says the Department of War has been running its own secret operation to physically shoot down UAP craft inside the United States as well as across the southern border near Juarez, Mexico, and that President Trump personally authorized it. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb is already asking what recovered materials from those downed objects could prove, and he's been running actual physics simulations modeling a real warp bubble against the orb footage in the government's own files. Also tonight, your Wi-Fi router might already be able to identify you without a camera, without a phone, and without you knowing. And scientists just watched an AI design a working virus that has never existed in nature. Welcome back to Infinite Rabbit Hole.
Imagine that this line represents the time, present 1985, future, past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein. Reality for everyone else.
What's up, everyone? I'm Jeremy Sosha, and you're listening to The Infinite Rabbit Hole, your weekly briefing on the unexplained. It's just me tonight, yet again, and we've got a lot to go through, so let's jump in. But before we do, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you visit us at infiniterabbithole.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Let's get into it. All right, before we get into our main stories tonight, let's run through quick hits, our rapid roundup of the stories from the last week that deserve your attention, even if we don't have time to go deep on them. So let's go. More than 5,300 years after his death, Otzi the Iceman is still hosting life. Researchers at URH Research Institute for Mummy Studies in Bolzano, Italy, led by microbiologist Mohammed Sarhan, found an unexpected mix of ancient and modern microorganisms still active on the Iceman's body. Nobody predicted that anything would still be living there this long after his death, let alone a mix of spanning thousands of years of biological history in one place. Sarhan and his team are still working out exactly what that means, but the short version is that Otzi never really stopped being an ecosystem. Moving on, some black holes floating around the universe right now might actually be older than the Big Bang itself. Professor Enrique Gastiaga of the University of Portsmouth published a new cosmic model proposing that our universe didn't simply explode into existence from nothing, but expanded out of an earlier contracting phase, essentially bouncing rather than beginning. If that holds up, it means some of the black holes we can observe today could have formed before the event we've always treated as the very start of everything we know. Moving on, a Colorado woman is the latest to report a Sasquatch sighting, and this one's got a clean story behind it. Lori Bowling was driving alongside Scenic Highway 149 near Lake City on July 28th. Watching for deer or moose that might dart into the road when she looked over toward the tree line and saw a bipedal figure emerge from the woods and move quickly up a hill. She reported it directly to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. Hopefully there's more to come for this one in the upcoming days, and if there is, we'll provide the update. Moving on. Loch Ness has already had more official sightings in 2026 than in all of 2025. And there's still more than 4 months left in the year. The most recent came from Australian tourist Oscar Gray, who was standing near Urquhart Castle on July 21st when he saw the top of a dark, flat green head break the surface of the water. Then, to his surprise, 2 more humps of the same color rose up right behind it, all 3 moving together as if they were part of one single creature. It's now the 9th in-person sighting logged this year, and the 11th overall if you include webcam footage. So, Otzi is still hosting life over 5,000 years later, black holes that might predate the Big Bang, a clean new Bigfoot sighting out of Colorado, and Loch Ness already beating last year's total with a third of the year still to go. That's Quick Hits. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts on the subjects behind tonight's Quick Hits segment. All right, this week's entry might be the most concrete yet of exactly why we started the segment, Should We Be Worried? Stanford professor Brian He and Stanford graduate student Samuel King led a team that trained a genome-focused AI model called EVO on genetic sequences pulled from millions of sources across all domains of life. Basically the same approach as training a chatbot on text, except the training material is DNA. They pointed it at a naturally occurring bacteriophage called Phi-X174, a type of virus that infects bacteria rather than humans, and used it as a template. The AI then generated thousands of entirely new, complete viral genome sequences that have never existed in nature. The team chemically built 285 to 300 of these AI-designed genomes in the lab to see if they'd actually work, and 16 of them came alive. They assembled into fully functional viruses capable of infecting and killing E. coli bacteria and reproducing on their own, with the findings being published in the journal Science on August 6th. The stated purpose is promising, though. These are phages, viruses that hunt bacteria, and the hope is this becomes a new weapon against antibiotic-resistant infections, since regular antibiotics are losing ground fast. But biosecurity researchers, specifically Dr. Thomas Inglesby and Dr. Moritz Hank at Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, immediately flagged the obvious flip side. This is proof that AI can now design a working novel organism from scratch, not just tweak an existing one, and they're calling for strict regulation before this capability moves any further. This one connects directly to something we covered a couple weeks back, the White House policy restricting dangerous gain-of-function research after Sam Altman and Dario Amodei themselves warned that AI was making it easier to design something extremely dangerous. This is that warning showing up in a peer-reviewed journal, and this is no longer hypothetical. This is now an actual functioning, never-before-existed virus built by a machine, fully alive in a lab. So, listeners, is this something that we should be worried about? 16 new viruses built from scratch by AI, and they worked. I'll let you decide. Leave a comment and tell me how you feel about this one. All right, let's get into tonight's briefing now. Your Wi-Fi router might already be able to identify you, and it doesn't need a camera, a microphone, or your phone to do it. Researchers at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany, led by Professor Thorsten Struve, demonstrated that the ordinary unencrypted signals routinely exchanged between Wi-Fi devices, the same signal sitting in your house, your office, and pretty much every coffee shop you've ever walked into, can be used to identify a specific person just from how their body disrupts the Wi-Fi signals. Here's how it actually works. Wi-Fi signals bounce around a room constantly, off walls, off furniture, and off you. Your body has a unique size, shape, and way of moving, and that creates a unique disruption pattern in the signal every single time you walk through a space. Struve's team found they could train a system to recognize that pattern well enough to identify individual people while testing it on 197 participants with near perfect accuracy, without those people carrying any connected devices at all. Think about what that actually means. You don't need to be logged into the network. You don't need your phone on you. You don't need to be anywhere near a camera. If there's a Wi-Fi router nearby, and there's almost always is, this signal itself can potentially be enough to know exactly who you are and track your movement through a space. Now, this is still research, and there's a real distance between a lab demonstration and something being deployed at scale in the real world. But the researchers themselves are the ones raising the concern, because the hardware required already exists in basically every home and business in the country. Nobody has to install anything new. The infrastructure for this kind of surveillance is already sitting on your wall, and it has been for years. All right, your turn, travelers. The technology to identify you without a camera, a phone, or your permission is already sitting in the walls of your own house. Think about that for a second. Let me know in the comments if that changes how you think about your router sitting in your home. All right, time to go deep. We're almost done with this one already. News Nation investigative journalist Ross Coulthart reported this week that the Department of War is running its own covert operation to physically intercept and shoot down UAP objects, not track them down, not photograph them. They are shooting them down. According to Coulthart's sources, this has already happened both inside of the United States and across the border near Juarez, Mexico. And according to those same sources, President Trump personally authorized the operations. Here's the detail that separates this from every rumor we've chased down before. Coulthart's sources describe this as a program completely separate from what's known as the Legacy Program, the decades-old, deeply compartmentalized reverse engineering effort that whistleblowers like David Grush have testified about for years. This is something new, an active, ongoing effort happening right now, specifically built to recover suspected non-human intelligence technology. Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist who now chairs the White House's UAP Science Advisory Council, engaged with this story directly, multiple times, in the days after it broke. In one post, Loeb walked through what recovered materials from these reportedly downed objects near White Sands, New Mexico, could actually prove. If real physical debris exists, then science could test its structure, its chemical composition, and its isotopic makeup. And that kind of analysis could settle the question of alien technology in a way that grainy video never could. In another post, Loeb worked through the logic of the claim itself. If these objects respond to being fired on, he argued, that alone tells you something meaningful about their nature. A response to human engagement implies some form of sensing. It doesn't require high intelligence. A heat-seeking missile reacts to an infrared source. A drone swarm reacts to a detected threat. But physical vulnerability to directed energy weapons does rule out at least one category of explanation. Whatever these things are, they're probably not pure atmospheric phenomena, like ball lightning, or even something more terrestrial like swamp gas. Shout out to famous Dr. J. Allen Hynek for his explanation on the 1966 UFO flap in Michigan. Loeb has been running numerical physics simulations of what a real warp bubble moving at roughly 75% the speed of light would actually look like interacting with the Earth's atmosphere. Now, a warp bubble is a theoretical region of flat spacetime surrounding a spacecraft, originally proposed by physicist Miguel Alcubierre in 1994. A warp drive bubble would allow a ship to move faster than light. Space contracts in front of the bubble and expands behind it, moving the ship without breaking Einstein's speed limit. Avi Loeb compares that simulated signature directly against the orb footage sitting in the government's own released files, trying to figure out whether what people are describing could physically match what a warp drive would produce if one were real. On top of all that, Loeb went back through the fifth Pursuit tranche himself and pulled out details that got far less attention than they probably deserved. The Gulf of Oman incident from September 2021, where an AC-130 gunship crew reported roughly 25 orbs during a live fire exercise, gets a lot more vivid once you read his account. The orbs were reportedly moving in formation at speeds of up to 1,300 miles per hour when the weapons officer opened fire on the flare they dropped. The crew says the orbs took off the instant the trigger was pulled, and they described the objects interacting with each other during the encounter in a way that reminded them of dolphins. So here's where that leaves us. Coulthart, a journalist with real sourcing, says the government isn't just watching these things anymore. It's shooting them down and trying to recover the pieces. Loeb, the man leading the government's own official science council, isn't dismissing that claim. He's running the actual physics to test it, and buried in a file release we already covered, there was an even stranger case sitting there the whole time, one that reportedly reacted in real time to being fired on. All right, travelers, the government is allegedly shooting these things down right now, not just filing paperwork on them anymore. And Avi Loeb running actual warp drive physics against the footage. After everything we covered since February of this year, this might be the biggest one yet. I want to hear what you think, so leave a comment down below and let me know. That's it. It's a quick one tonight. In Quick Hits, we covered Otzi the Iceman, still hosting living organisms more than 5,300 years after his death, a cosmic model suggesting some black holes might be older than the Big Bang itself, a clean new Bigfoot sighting out of Colorado, and Loch Ness already beating all of 2025's sightings with 4 months of the year still left. In our Should We Be Worried segment, we covered the moment AI stopped being theoretical about biological risk. Scientists watched an AI-designed virus built entirely from scratch come alive in a lab. In our briefing, We covered new research showing that ordinary Wi-Fi signals, the kind already sitting in your house right now, may be able to identify you without a camera, a phone, or even your knowledge. And in the deep dive, we covered reports that the government may be actively shooting down and recovering UAP craft, and Avi Loeb's effort to test that claim using actual physics, materials, analysis, and a detailed second look at a case from the files we already thought we understood. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating, review, and find us on InfiniteRabbitHole.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. We're back next week, and until then, keep your eyes open, travelers. Keep asking questions, and remember, the truth is out there. You just have to know where to look. I'm Jeremy Socia, and we'll see you at the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. If you're looking for more of our stuff, head on over to InfiniteRabbitHole.com, where you can find links to all the podcast players that we are available on, and even our video platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. While you're there, make sure to check out all the links for our socials and hit that follow so you know when all the new stuff from our podcast comes out. And until next time, travelers, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye.